Quiet on the Set was a documentary that featured some former childhood stars, and they were basically telling their stories about their time on certain sets on Nickelodeon. Um, it featured characters from All That, from Drake and Josh, from The Amanda Show, and some of those will be more prominent as we get later into the video. But basically it just detailed like there were harsh working conditions. um People were scared of people. um a lot of things went on behind the scenes that you would not expect to happen on a set for television made for children. And it was just mind blowing. Like, if you have not seen it, it's streaming on HBO Max, and there's like 4 episodes, and it just gets more and more intense. I think there's 5 now. Forgive me. Another one was released. Yeah, there's 5 because there was 4, and then 5 came about. It was like a update kind of fallout video, like, how are things since the documentary has been released. And I mean, as soon as that episode came out, I went and watched it because I binged quite on the Set. Like, I finished it. I started watching it um one night and I finished it that night. And I couldn't believe a lot of the stuff, like some of the stuff that they were talking about, because it's just like, how could you get up and go to work every day? So I really wanted to talk about Quiet on the Set because it relates to me. I'm an aspiring actress. I only say aspiring because I'm not currently working right now. But I have wanted to act like literally since I was a child. Um, I used to see Ruby, I used to see Raven Simone, and I just like Taj Mari. Let me mention him as well. But like, I see them and I'm like, they're little, not knowing that they were older than me at the time. But I'm like, oh, they're little and they're on TV. And it's like, if I start while I'm young, I can make a whole lot of money. Like, acting, like I was drawn to acting through the child stars. Like, anybody can do it. And I always wanted to be the person who made all the money in the family. Like, I wanted to be the first millionaire, and I wanted to do that, making movies and being in them. So, to learn that, maybe if I had got on Zoe 101, or maybe if I had got on The Amanda Show at any point, like, my dreams probably would have been shot. Like, they'd have been rained on. And oh, it's tough enough trying to dream through the years in 2024. Like, at the age I am now, I'm 31, and it's just like they went through all that and we never would have known it. Some of the major thoughts that I had for Quiet on the Set was there was a lot of people blaming the parents. And I didn't feel like that was fair, honestly, because of the fact that you had parents in the documentary who were talking about how, oh, I spoke up and I said this and I said that. Their kids got fired. I spoke up and I said this and I said that. Their kids got mad at them. I spoke up and I said this, I said that. They started getting less screen time. Like, you got to take into consideration that this was like the 90s, the early 2000s. Like, there was no Twitter, no Me Too movements. There was just like these people who have these kids, and it's just like, wow, I'm on TV, I'm making this money. Like, be quiet. Like, it's tough because it's like you want to protect your kids, but you also don't want to have them mad at you and resenting you. And I can understand why in some of those cases the parents didn't want to do too much, and why they felt like they failed their kids when they did do too much. But that's just Hollywood. Like, that was just them being evil. And I feel like they deserve grace because of the fact of, like, a lot of those people probably got into that industry knowing nothing. And that was back in the day where, you hear stories about people. Like, I was just at the mall shopping and somebody was like, "Hey, you want to be on a TV show?" And it's like, next thing you know, like, they're accepting awards and stuff like that. Like, it happens. Um, the other thing that I didn't really care for was the fact of, like, blaming the kids. Like, they should have said something, they should have spoke up. And I'm like, people are insane these days. Like, they are really crazy. Like, kids are kids, and sometimes they talk too much, sometimes they talk too little. But they're kids, and expecting such mature responses from them, expecting them to, "Oh, this isn't right. I need to speak up. I need to say this. I need to say that." Like, these kids were 10, 12, some of them 9. Like, I believe someone was 9. Don't quote me when you go see it. But it's like some of these kids have been working for a certain person since, like, single digit ages. And Stockholm syndrome is a thing. Like, I say people have Stockholm syndrome all the time. It's like, I at the end of the day, they just expected way too much from the kids. And then like, the fact of not enough was done. Like, nothing is ever done. And it's just like, people should have gone to jail. People should have been, like, fined, fired, like, just all this stuff. And everything is going on like that behind the scenes. Like, I think I said it already, but like, all this is going on, and all we see is, like, the smiles and the the fun nature, like how everything just looks so glitz and glam. And like, behind the scenes, they're like tired and suffering and scared. And it just puts you in a space where it's just like, that really sucks. It really sucks. In a way, I'm glad that I got to be an adult and got to be at a point where that's wrong. I know, like, how to recognize signs of, for the most part, manipulation and things like that. And it's just like, I feel like they're probably protecting people a little bit better now, the children at least. I feel like my generation of parents are, like, on that. Like, do not play with that, because I know I don't. And that's for any child in my care. That's for any child that I care about. Not on that at all. Now, one of the other things that made Quiet on the Set, like, so explosive was the fact of Drake Bell. Now, there's no way for me to go into details about Drake without giving away any spoilers, so I'm just gonna go full on, no holding back. And I was speaking, like, heavily about him when I said that they were expecting way too much from the children. Um so Drake ended up being a victim of sexual abuse at the hands of a dialect coach. And the guy did not get very much jail time for it. It did not have a major impact to his career, but he abused him horribly. for a while, and it was cold and calculated, and he manipulated literally everyone in this situation. Like, it's really sick to think what he went through just to get to him, and to finally get him, and then to do all of that to him. It was crazy. Like, I can't I can't get too much into it, because then I'm going to say some things that I'll probably get banned for. But I just really hope he has at some point in his life gotten to a point where he understands like how wrong he was, and realize the damage that he caused, cuz it would not fly. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, my heart especially went out to Drake's dad, because he did everything he could to prevent it. Like, he did all that he could to make sure that he kept Drake safe. And he was one of those parents where it's like he caused a ruckus, and people ostracized him for it, and it caused his child to resent him, and he was eventually phased out of the situation to the point where it's like now he can essentially do what he want. And it's just like, there's so many people who can be blamed, who you want to blame, but at the end of the day, it was the guy's fault for giving in to who he was. And things start to make sense the more you learn about people. So, I mean, all in all, it was hard to watch, but it's one of those things that you're really glad that you watched it. And, like, lots of love, light, and strength to all of them, especially to Drake. It was very nice to see that, people were repairing relationships with their parents, with each other. The the outpour of love that people probably needed back then, they were getting it now. um I could have talked about Amanda. I wanted to talk about Amanda, but Amanda was not in the documentary, so she never told her story. She never said anything about herself. Um, a lot of people just spoke on her, um, about her. Things were speculated, but I just want to say that my heart goes out to her as well. Anything that she suffered or endured or has kept bottled up all these years, because Drake said that he never talked about anything that happened to him outside of therapy, and that documentary was the first time publicly he ever said anything. And I have never seen like more courageous acts. Like, they are the strongest of the strong. And thank you for all the memories. Thank you for, I don't want to call it a sacrifice, because I never asked anybody to do that, but thank you for coming forward. At the end of the day, that's pretty much all it is. Like, if you can stomach it, once again, it's streaming on HBO Max, and it is heavy. I want to thank you so much for joining me for a lot about nothing. You think I get my own title right? Thank you for joining me for A Whole Lot About Nothing with Mona Shay. I'll see you in the next one.